Welcome to the second part of the lesson Albert Einstein at School by Patrick Pringle. Let's continue. Page number 28. Certainly he had lost his high spirits when Yuri saw him next. I can't stand it any longer, he said. I really shall have a nervous breakdown that will satisfy any doctor. Keep it up then, said Yuri. I have found a doctor for you. You have? Albert's face lit up. Oh, good. When can I see him? I have an appointment for you for tomorrow evening, Yuri said. Here is the address. He handed Albert a piece of paper. Dr. Ernst Weil. Is he a specialist in nervous troubles? Asked Albert. Not exactly, Yuri admitted. As a matter of fact, he only qualified as a doctor last week. You may even be his first patient. You knew him as a student then? I've known Ernst for years. Yuri hesitated for a few moments. He is not a fool. He won't, Albert. What do you mean? Don't try to pull the wool over his eyes. Don't try to deceive him. That's all. Be frank with him, but don't pretend you've got what you haven't. Not that you would deceive anyone, Yuri added. You are the world's worst liar. Albert was right, and when Yuri saw him the next time, he actually seemed troubled. By this time, Albert had given up and he actually was expecting a real nervous breakdown. If it continued like this would have surely made the doctor's work easier, and Yuri here conveyed to him that he has found just the doctor for him and he has an appointment the next evening while giving him the address. Albert read the doctor's name and he is getting himself prepared for the meeting. The only advice that Yuri gives Albert is not to tell the doctor any lies and not to cheat him. Albert spent the next day wondering what to tell the doctor. When the time arrived for his appointment, he had worried over it so much that he really was quite nervous. I don't really know how to describe my trouble, Dr. Weil, he began. Don't try, said the young doctor with a friendly smile. Yuri has already given me a history of the case. Oh, what did he say? Only what you want me to think you have had a nervous breakdown and say that you mustn't go back to that school. Oh dear, Albert's face fell. He shouldn't have told you that. Why not? Isn't it true then? Yes, that's the trouble. Now you will say there is nothing wrong with me and you will tell me to go back to school. Don't be too sure of that. As a matter of fact, I am pretty sure you are in a nervous state about that school. But I haven't told you anything about it. Albert said, wide-eyed. How can you know that? Because you wouldn't have come to see me about this if you hadn't been pretty close to a nervous breakdown. That's why. Now, said the doctor briskly, if I certify that you have had a nervous breakdown and must stay away from school for a while, what will you do? Here you find that Albert went to see the doctor and told him that he really wanted to be away from school and he tried his level best to explain his miserable situation. But the friendly doctor comforted him and told him that Yuri had already done the explanation for him. And it turned out that Yuri had told Dr. Weil the entire truth and how Albert wanted the doctor to think he had a nervous breakdown because of school. The doctor was a very professional one. He replied that if Albert weren't really close to a nervous breakdown, he wouldn't be really seeing him. He then inquired about Albert's plans once he gets out of the school. Albert continued, I'll go to Italy, to Milan, where my parents are. And what will you do there? I'll try to get into an Italian college or institute. How can you without a diploma? I'll ask my mathematics teacher to give me something about my work. and perhaps that will be enough. I have learnt all the maths they teach at school and a bit more, he added when Dr. Weil looked doubtful. Well, it's up to you. I doubt if it will come off, but I can see you are not doing yourself or anyone else much good by staying here. How long would you like me to say you should stay away from school? Would 6 months be all right? This is very kind of you. It's nothing. I've only just stopped being a student myself, so I know how you feel. Here you are. Dr. Weil handed him the certificate and the best of luck. How much? Nothing if you have anything to spare. Invite Yuri to a meal. He is a good friend of mine and yours too, I think. Albert had no money to spare, but he pretended he had and took Yuri out to supper. Here you find that the doctor is not still convinced if the college idea would succeed, but he is definitely convinced about the fact that Albert going to school is not doing anyone much good. Thus, he confirms if a 6 month away from school would be enough to put his plan in place. Dr. Weil tells him that he understands the situation so well because he has just stopped being a student. He even refuses to take his fees and asks him to take Yuri for a meal. Filled with joy, Albert took Yuri out for supper, even though he had no extra money. Isn't it wonderful? He said after showing Yuri the certificate. Yes, it's fine, Yuri agreed. 6 months is a good period. This way you won't actually be leaving the school. So if the worst comes to the worst, you will be able to come back and carry on for your diploma. I'll never go back to that place, Albert assured him. I'm going to take the certificate to the head teacher tomorrow, and that will be the end of it. Don't forget to get a reference in writing from your mathematics teacher first, you reminded him. Mr. Koch willingly gave Albert the reference he wanted. On seeing the certificate, Yuri assures him that 6 months is a good time period because just in case things go wrong, Albert could come back to finish his school diploma. Albert goes to meet his mathematics teacher to get the certificate. Let's see what happens. If I say I can't teach you anymore, and probably you will soon be able to teach me, will that be all right? Asked the mathematics teacher. That's saying too much, sir. It's only the truth, but all right, I'll put it more seriously. It was still a glowing reference, and Mr. Koch made the point that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institute for the study of higher mathematics. I'm sorry you are leaving us, although you're wasting your time in my class, he said. It's almost the only class where I'm not wasting my time, said Albert. But how did you know I'm leaving, sir? You wouldn't have asked me for this reference otherwise. I thought you would wonder. There is nothing to wonder about, Einstein. I knew you were going to leave before you knew yourself. Albert was puzzled. What did the teacher mean? Albert's mathematics teacher expresses his displeasure about him leaving, but again he knew Albert was wasting his time there. He instantly corrected him, saying that Mr. Koch's class was the only class where he was not wasting his time. Albert did not tell him anything about leaving, but the mathematics teacher could easily identify it long before Albert realized himself, and also because of the reference letter. Albert soon found out, before he had a chance to ask for an interview with the head teacher, he was summoned to the head's room. Well, it saves me the trouble of having to wait an hour or two outside, he thought. He hardly bothered to wonder why he had been sent for, but vaguely supposed he was to be punished again for bad work and laziness. Well, he had finished with his punishments. To his surprise, Albert was called into the head's room. Although he was not aware of the reason, he was himself going to make an appointment, but was happy that it saved him the trouble of waiting for 1 or 2 hours to meet him. Let's continue. the meeting with the head teacher. "I am not going to punish you," the head teacher said, to Albert's surprise. "Your work is terrible, and I am not prepared to have you here any longer, Einstein. I want you to leave the school now." "Leave school now?" repeated Albert, dazed. "That is what I said." "You mean that I am to be expelled?" "You can take it that way if you wish, Einstein." The head teacher was not mincing words. "The simplest thing will be for you to go of your own accord, and then the question won't arise." "But what crime have I committed?" "Your presence in the classroom makes it impossible for the teacher to teach and for the other pupils to learn. You refuse to learn, you are in constant rebellion, and no serious work can be done while you are there." The head teacher of the school was serious and suggested Einstein that he should leave school on his own accord instead of being expelled because it would be easier for both parties. Albert still did not understand what crime he had committed. The head teacher explained how his presence is creating trouble for teachers to give lessons to other students and how no work can be done when he is around. Let's continue. Albert felt the medical certificate almost burning a hole in his pocket, which means that the money he had spent on extracting the certificate, which was paid in terms of a meal with Yuri, the effort that he had taken to get the certificate had gone waste as the certificate was rendered useless. He was anyway being sent away from school. Regardless, Albert expresses that he was anyway going to leave, to which the teacher replies that at least for the first time they are agreeing on something. "I was going to leave anyway," Albert said. "Then we are in agreement at least, Einstein," the head said. For a moment Albert was tempted to tell the man what he thought of him and of his school. Then he stopped himself. Without another word, holding his head high, he stalked out. Here you find Albert is deeply pained at the response of the head teacher, and he walks out of his room. "Shut the door after you," shouted the head. Albert ignored him. He walked straight on, out of the school where he had spent 5 miserable years. Without turning his head to give it a last look, he could not think of anyone he wanted to say goodbye to. Indeed, Yuri was almost the only person in Munich he felt like seeing before he left the town he had come to hate almost as much as the school. Elsa was back in Berlin, and he had no other real friends. "Goodbye and good luck," said Yuri when he left. "You are going to a wonderful country, I think. I hope you will be happier there." Here again, Albert was not at all regretting for leaving the school. He did not even look back at the place where he had spent the most terrible years of his life. He had no real friends or close acquaintances whom he could bid goodbye. He met Yuri before leaving, who wished him well and hoped he would be happy in the country he was going to. Elsa was also back in Berlin with her family, thus there was no one else he could say goodbye to. At last, Albert was out of school. Thus we come to the end of the chapter. Thank you.